Hello and welcome to Career Talk. I'm Lee Hopwood. I'm the CEO here at the CCMA and host of this very live show where I chat with contact centre professionals to find out about their career journeys so far. And why do we do this? I'm on a bit of a mission to inspire those working in the industry, but also those that might be thinking about a career in the contact centre. And joining me today is John Devlin. He is co-founder and CEO of Ascensos, a global BPO headquartered in Scotland. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Lee. Delighted to be here and looking forward to a chat this afternoon.
Do you know what? I cannot wait to find out a little bit more about your background. So I know that you're obviously a well-known leader in the industry. When I was thinking about how to describe you, I wanted to call you a veteran of the industry.
Oh, great, thanks.
And I thought you're not going to appreciate that. So I did look it up on Google, and it does mean someone that's got a long-standing experience in any one thing, in essence. And that is something that you have got. And although the word veteran isn't necessarily one that you might like, you are someone with a long-standing experience in the industry. And I want to know where it all started, the journey you've been on, and a little bit more about what makes you tick. I'd love to understand a little bit more around what motivates you. So can we go back to the beginning, right back to the beginning? What happened when you left school? Did you go on and do A-levels? Did you do university? Did you do, I don't know, an apprenticeship? What did you do when you left school?
Now you mentioned school, I'm definitely going to sound like a veteran. I'm going to sound as if I should be retired, actually. It seems that long ago. So if I take you back to then, I left school in the mid-80s and probably ages me very easily. But yeah, the mid-80s were a different time in the UK, I guess. I was very academic at school. Some would say I was a bit of a swot. My brothers would certainly say that about me. You know, I was the youngest of four boys in our family, and I was definitely the most academic out of everyone. I actually wanted to be a school teacher. I wanted to be.
How interesting.
I wanted to teach English, and then I thought about what was happening in the world of jobs at that time, and I decided to study electronic engineering instead of doing what my heart told me, which would be a school teacher. My head told me to get into where the money was at that time, and the money was in electronic engineering. That was a huge sector in Scotland where I grew up. There was a huge electronic engineering sector there. We called it Silicon Glen in Scotland. It was the version of Silicon Valley in California, and that's what I studied, and that's where my career took me originally, into working for very large US electronic manufacturing businesses such as IBM, Sun Microsystems, etc., who had a huge presence in Scotland. But I didn't then follow the technical side of working in electronic sector. I went initially into procurement and into building relationships with suppliers, and then into program management, and then into account management and business development. You know, so I had more of a career in the support functions round about the core aspect of the engineering business itself. But that opened my eyes up to traveling overseas, you know, to developing my career in a way that I didn't necessarily see, you know, through my education. But also opened my eyes up into business development and some of the rewards that could bring, you know, from a financial perspective as well.
When you say you travelled around the world, that was through your more your business development sales type roles, and whereabouts in the world did that take you?
I've worked all over. So, you know, I've travelled in the US extensively. I've done secondments in Singapore and China with Motorola before. I worked in Scandinavia as well. Yeah, so yeah, I travelled extensively, you know, through the 90s in particular, and had a great experience, you know, developing my awareness of international business, my awareness of how to negotiate with other cultures, other countries, but also just my self-awareness as well about really who I was, what I was good at, and maybe what I wasn't so good at either.
I desperately want to ask what you think you're good at and what you don't think, what you think you're not so good at, but that sounds like an interview question, so I won't. But you relatively early on, therefore, you got some big roles with big responsibility at a relatively young age, therefore, and and you're clearly ambitious, and that, and obviously I've had a little bit of a look of your background. I know you a little bit, and just from what you've shared already, you're clearly ambitious. Back then, was it just the money that motivated you, or was there more to it than that?
No, I mean, I like the challenge of it. Again, I mean, I was brought up in a relatively small town in central Scotland. You know, I didn't have much exposure, you know, to global businesses, and maybe really at an early age, I didn't have any expectation of that either. But it was such a challenge, you know, to put yourself into that arena, into that environment, you know, to compete, you know, against really A players from different cultures and different backgrounds as well. And you know, I liked the self development that gave me, you know, working in that environment. I was seen to be a bit of a troubleshooter, you know, and I'd get things done and things fixed, you know, and I guess when I was younger, you know, I didn't suffer fools gladly either, and just I was very kind of focused on getting the job done. But equally, you know, I said yes to things, and you know, I still always had that appetite. You know, when something was offered to me that I thought was an expansion opportunity and a development opportunity, I would tend to say yes to it. You know, without really considering maybe some of the negatives around it or the downsides of it. I would say yes, and then think about the consequences later. And I think, you know, still, you know, 30 years later or so, as an entrepreneurial led individual, I still think that's important, is to have a mentality of saying yes, you know, and the kind of shop is open rather than the shop being closed, you know, and that's what enables you to grow as a person, but also to help your business grow too.
Do you know what? I totally agree. Some people talk about luck, and I talk about you make your own luck, and I think that leans into, actually, if you walk through the doors that are open to you, then you never know what's around the corner and what luck might bring you. So some of those decisions, what were some of the things that you did that you didn't enjoy doing?
Wasn't much that I didn't enjoy it, you know. There was obviously a big challenge working overseas and being away from your family and your friends and all that kind of stuff. But you have to accept that. You know, that just comes part and parcel of the job that you and the opportunity means that you have to sacrifice some things. I think that again is still part of my position today. You have to kind of sacrifice some things along the way. But you make decisions, and you make bad decisions, and you learn from them. You know, and your whole role as a leader is about making decisions. You know, being the guy that has to make the difficult decisions when they come around. Obviously, you delegate a lot of decisions within the business, but ultimately, the big no go decisions sit with you, and you have to get most of those decisions right. You know, in order that your business survives and your business grows. You know, you have to have good judgment, make great decisions, and you can only make good decisions and have good judgment if you've learned from bad decisions along the way. You know, I think it's the only way of learning is to put yourself out with your comfort zone, put yourself in a place that you're forced to make a decision. And if it's good, you learn from that in a positive way. If it's bad, you adjust and you pivot and you develop your skills, your capabilities to deal with that situation better the next time it comes around.
How do you feel when you're outside of your comfort zone? Do you feel like I sense that you thrive when you're outside of your comfort zone. Is that how you feel? Is that
Yeah, I would think I'm outside my comfort zone 90% of the time. You know, genuinely, most of the time I'm pushing the boundaries of what we do and how we do it, and being outside our comfort zone. You know, and I think that's again fine. You know, that's became in my DNA. That's my way of working. Has always been kind of stretching yourself and pushing yourself. And you have to kind of make sure that other people that you work with are comfortable with that too, because that's what I expect of them. I expect them to be willing to take on challenges that maybe it pushes them outside of their comfort zone, and maybe for that initial feeling, they might develop some imposter syndrome as a result of that. But then you develop, then you learn, then you grow as an individual from those experiences. But yeah, I like troubleshooting, I like firefighting, in BPO and outsourcing. When you're balancing so many different aspects of your business and your client's business at the same time, then you have to be good at firefighting. The business plan is only a moment in time and only a moment of record. You have to, every day, I wake up thinking I'll have to deal today with what's in front of me today. There's no point in me really thinking of, I have to obviously consider what is a year ahead, but I've got today to deal with first of all.
Yeah, which makes total sense. Now, I remember Becogent, and you were quite a big player at Becogent, and there will be people that are listening that will also remember Becogent. Tell us about your journey with them, and was that your first foray into outsourcing, into contact centres?
No. I did experience with contact centres beforehand. I'd worked for a business called R.R. Donnelly in the mid-90s, a big global print and media business, and we had a huge contract with Microsoft to launch Windows 95 for them, and we done that. We launched Windows 95 for them and fulfilled their Windows 95 launch around the globe. But they also needed tech support, because at the time people were installing Windows 95 software onto their PCs or laptops and it wasn't working, or they didn't know how to install it properly, was probably more the fact of the matter. So Microsoft asked us to set up a help desk, a technical help desk for that, and we've done that in Holland, in a place called Apeldoorn. And it was my first experience of what we would call now a contact centre. It wasn't really, it was an old-fashioned people picking up the phone when it rang kind of situation. But that's what evolved into contact centres. And then with Motorola, I was working overseas, and I came back home after 9/11 in 2001, and I joined Becogent, which was a startup at the time, or pretty much a startup at the time. I think it was only 100 or so employees there, in that account development and business development space. And we fitted really well. We just gelled really well. Myself and the leadership team and the owners of Becogent fitted really well. And it was good for me, good for them. And we never really looked back from then.
So there will be people that are in a business development role at the moment, quite possibly in a outsourcing business. How did the opportunity to lead Becogent or become the MD of Teleperformance when it was bought over by Scotland? How did that come about? Was it what you did? Was it the doors opened? Tell us a little bit more about that part of your journey.
Yeah, I mean, it was all about, at Becogent for me, having great relationships with clients. In our industry, client partnerships, client relationships, being authentic, having that integrity, both as an individual but as a brand, was hugely important, and that led to our success at Becogent. With that came a lot of interest, to ultimately acquire Becogent, and to bring Becogent into some of the very large global providers that were going around at that time. And we were acquired by Teleperformance in 2010. Becogent was acquired, and some of us stayed with Teleperformance at that point. Some moved on. I stayed, for a period of time with TP. And TP had a great business, and a very compelling business on a global scale. But it wasn't really for me at that point. I still thought there was unfinished business with Becogent. I still think we had a secret sauce there that I wanted to make the most of. I wanted to retain the entrepreneurial spirit we had within Becogent. I wasn't able to do that, within the very large industrial scale business that Teleperformance is. And that's no disrespect to them, and they do their thing, and there's plenty of space in the market for different ways in which we deliver services. But I felt that there was a need for a very personal and high quality independent player. And after 3 years of a lockout of the industry, we put the business plan together to put Ascensos together at that time, and I brought back some of the team that I had at Cogent, which was great to have the luxury of bringing some of those real colleagues of mine back from Cogent, and we set out our stall again to, at that time, really be Cogent 2.0, but to build on the relationships, the foundation, and indeed maybe the respect that Cogent had in the marketplace, and that's what was really the foundation for Ascensos.
And I completely get that. And when you said that you'd got unfinished business with Cogent, yes, because of all the ethics and those foundational values, but it was the entrepreneurial piece. You're clearly an entrepreneur, and I can imagine not being at the helm of a global organization and being given your parameters potentially may well have been quite stifling. So you start Ascensos. Where does the name Ascensos come from?
Everyone asks that. You know, it's a funny one. I thought we might have not would be a factor any longer, but people do ask that. Ascenso in Latin or Spanish means to elevate, to promote. You know, to like ascension. You know, and it's to rise up. You know, and we felt that summed up our ambitions, was to elevate ourselves, but also elevate our clients' brands and our clients' businesses as well through the partnerships with Ascensos, and it also gave us the ability, you know, to have a .com domain name that were becoming very scarce to get anything .com in those days, and also we didn't want something that kind of restricted us to be, you know, to look and sound like we were a legacy-based contact center, anything with tele in it or anything with phone in it or contact in it or call in it. We wanted, at that stage, Lee, we were a digital only provider, and we wanted something that was a bit agnostic in terms of what it said about our business, you know, and it sounded a bit more tech led than it did legacy call center led. So that's through lots of names we threw at the wall and seen what stuck. The Ascensos was the one that stuck at that time.
So when you started it, and tell us about how you go about starting a business. You need a business plan, but you need clients, you need money behind you. What are the kind of steps that you went through in order to set up Ascensos?
I know much more about that now than I did then. I was pretty naive about that then, actually. You know, I thought it would be easy, and it's not easy. You know, for any budding entrepreneur or business startup out there, it's not easy, and you have to get your ducks in a row. I mean, I did have the support of some of the investors that we had at Cogent, wanted to get back involved again with Ascensos. They believed in the purpose that we had. They believed in the same beliefs that I had, that there was unfinished business and we could go again. The market, I guess, I still had great relationships in the market, still had a lot of friends in the market who encouraged me that, yes, there's still a need for this, John. You know, there's huge consolidation at the top table, at the tier 1 BPOs, and there's still a need for somebody like you know, to operate. So we had the investment backing, we had the emotional support for what we were trying to do. What we didn't have was clients, and we thought we would get clients easy. It's not as easy as that. They don't just come with you. You know, it's you have to work hard for everything. So we always wanted to scale up quickly too. So we invested in to be a relatively large business from the start. We opened our first office in Motherwell with 400 empty seats and no clients. Yeah, I used to stare out from my desk at this kind of sea of empty seats and empty desks, and all set up for success, but with no clients. So we'd done it the hard way. You know, we walked the walk, walked around London, chapping doors, you know, meeting people, you know, doing all those coffee shop meetings and getting turned away and champing 50 doors and getting rejected, and then champing the 51st door, as they say, and somebody said yes, you know, and that's what starts you out. But of course, we had our doubts through all of that, will somebody eventually buy this? And they did. And once, thankfully, one person took a bit of a punt on us, things started to flow from then, and flow very quickly from then.
And it's that once you've got that first one over the line, then actually it gives you the confidence as well, which I guess that comes across when you're in your sales pitches to then keep moving. And you've not looked back, because you've grown massively over the last. So when was Essentials born? 15 years
2013. 2013. So
10 years ago.
11 years ago, but yeah, around about now in 2014 was when we started to get some traction in our business. So we put the business plan together, and we signed up for our property and all that in 2013. But it was around about spring of 2014 we started to win some clients. So about 10 years of growth we've had. Yeah.
Wow. So tell us what a standard day looks like. Now, I know today you're in South Africa, and you've grown the business out of Scotland. You are now global. What does, as a CEO of a global outsourcing business, what does your day look like?
No day's ever the same as the previous day. There's always, a lot of firefighting, troubleshooting, changes in our business. I walked into our office here in Cape Town yesterday. First time I've been here for 3 months now, and there were guys putting up some partition walls, taking down other walls and stuff, and that's the nature of our business. It's constantly evolving, constantly developing. We're constantly expanding and changing the structure of what we do. I spend a lot of time with clients, personally. That's still a huge part of who we are and what we are is the personal relationships myself and my leadership team have with our clients, and that's one of our USPs, that we're that type of business that will never move away from that. We'll always be a kind of client-centric business. Spend a lot of time with people. It's still very much a people-led business. And everyone wants a piece of you. And sometimes I feel like I'm a GP in a GP surgery, and I've got a queue of people outside waiting, to have their 5 or 10 minutes with you. And
wanting you to make quick decisions.
Yeah, but that's it, isn't it? It's you have to make time for your team. You have to make time for everyone in the organization. You have to be accessible, visible, approachable. So I don't lock myself away in an office. Unfortunately, I do spend time on Teams meetings and the likes, but I try and minimize that as much as possible and spend as much time with the people that matter, who are our clients and our colleagues. That's really where I spend the majority of my time. Thankfully, we're a very agile, very flexible business, and I don't spend a lot of time dealing with kind of board level issues. We try and keep that to a minimum. We try and keep bureaucracy and administration in our business to an absolute minimum, and keep the focus on what really matters is the delivery to our clients on a hour-to-hour, day-to-day basis.
So on that day-to-day basis, you still got investors. How do you manage that? And so I completely hear you. Look, when you're you need to spend time with your clients, you need to spend time with your people. Completely get that. But you've also got this other set of stakeholders that you also need to look after. That's not easy as a CEO, because they are always on your back looking for that next opportunity. How do you manage that as well? Because that is a pressure when you're a CEO.
Yeah, it is. And again, you have to live with the pressures that comes with, and the time constraints that brings with it too, and making time for all those stakeholders, including your investors and your board, is very important. We operate very with agility on WhatsApp. We do a lot of decision making as a board on WhatsApp. It just allows us to to operate with pace and speed. That sometimes if you're trying to deal with emails or actually face-to-face meetings, it becomes more problematic. So we've adopted that as our kind of core communication channel. But to be fair, they give me a huge degree of autonomy, and mostly driven by maybe their belief that I'm doing the right thing, and they believe in the decisions that we're taking, and we do get the majority of those decisions right. And if we don't, we fail fast as well. It's a huge thing about our business is failing fast and fixing any issues that we create for ourselves very rapidly. So I'm not saying that we're perfect, we're not, but we're kind of business that you have to take risks, you have to make decisions. I've got a general view that I share with my team that 8 out of 10 is good enough for us. If you're trying to be perfect in our industry and our sector, then you'll never get anything done. And speed in your go-to-market proposition, your speed of execution is of primary importance. We're competing against some very large global providers that have got a bigger toolkit than I've got, and that is just the reality of it. They've got a bigger toolkit than we've got, but I can deploy my tools quicker than they can, and that's what makes a difference for us.
Wow. And I'm going to say, has that scratch been itched? No, that itch been scratched. The when you talk about selling up the Cogent, and actually there was something more to be done. Do you feel like you've achieved that? I know that you've got more that you're planning, and I know there's more in the tank. But in terms of that scratch, that itch, have you scratched it?
I'm always scratching. No, I mean, I love what I do. Yeah, I absolutely do love what I do. I spring out of bed in the morning. I never once have my commute to the office. I'm never like, oh my God, I've got business today. I absolutely love it. You cannot separate it from me. But we've got lots to achieve. We're doing really well as a business. That doesn't mean to say that we're not subject to the same conditions and environmental changes that others are, with the emerging technologies, with AI, with the march of offshore options within global BPO. So we've got lots to do just to pivot towards all of the wins that we face into going forward. We've got a relatively fledgling operation supporting in North America at the moment. It's doing really well, but our brand isn't that well known in North America, and I need to do more about that. So no, I've got lots to keep me occupied.
So when you're not springing out of bed and making your way into the office and spending time with your people, with your clients, with your investors, what do you do? How do you relax? What do you do outside of work?
I don't do that much. People expect you see all these CEO leadership talks and TED talks, etc., about how other leaders in any organisations, have got, they're kind of get their well-being, their mindset in place. I'm pretty simple in that. I mean, I love football. I mean, football is my passion in life, outwith of a sense of, and I spend my time talking about football, watching football with my kids, playing football with my boys still, getting injured playing football because I'm too old to do it any longer. But football has always been my inspiration in life, and when people ask me who I get inspiration from and who my business mentors are, etc., I don't really have that. I take inspiration from what great sports leaders do, and you can apply most of those great techniques from sport into business too, about the dressing room ethics, the dressing room culture, the morals in your dressing room, the purpose you have as a sports team and as a business. I think are all very well aligned. So I still play football, I still watch football, and live and breathe it as well.
Well, that explains why you have had certainly such a relationship with Albion Rovers.
Oh yeah, noticed. Yeah, you've done your homework then, noticing that. I didn't know that was so obvious. Yeah, I was Albion Rovers were my local team when we grew up, and I've had the opportunity to join the board there. Again, through B Cogent, we sponsored them because they were a local team to us. I joined the board as a director, and then I looked around one day and there's no one else there, and I became chairman. And but it was
That
great
must
fun
have
at the
been so
time.
exciting, so exciting. A massive learning opportunity, absolutely being in that position, different sector to your day job. But that must have been so exciting to have been the chairman of.
It was, and I mean, it's a small business and it's a small football club in Scotland as well, and everything was about the fans, the relationship between the fans and the club and the business, and it was very, very, very personal. You knew every fan almost by their first name, and they had supported Albion Rovers through their father and their father's father and that kind of stuff, and you then realise what purpose really means with an organisation like that. They don't support it for the glory, they don't support it for the trophies. They support it because it means something deep within them, and it does teach you a lot about purpose and about authenticity and integrity as well.
Wow. Do you still go and watch them play?
Time and again, I do. Yeah, I mean, as an ex-chairman, sometimes you go and you get a lot of abuse, and they blame you for everything that's went wrong ever since. And maybe some of that is valid and some of it isn't. But I guess it's all good banter and light-hearted as well. But yeah, I do go and watch them now and again. No, they're not doing so well at the moment, unfortunately, but I still got a very soft spot for them.
I love that. And do you know what? One of the things that's come through in this conversation is your integrity. There's three words or two words that you use: integrity and authenticity. I build into that ethics as well, and you've also been involved with Spirit Aid. Is that right, Spirit Aid? And
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about your involvement there, and maybe some more of that ESG pieces that you play at the moment.
Yeah, so Spirit Aid again came through the football thing. It was something we get involved in. Spirit Aid is a humanitarian. I'm not involved any longer, incidentally. I was a non-exec with them, but it was a humanitarian aid organisation based in Glasgow. Primarily looked after kids, in poverty in Glasgow, and tried to make life better in the communities that they operated within. But also extended itself into helping kids in Syria at the time, some of the war-torn locations, both Afghanistan and Syria, kids that maybe weren't getting any support from some of the much larger humanitarian aid organisations like Save the Children and Oxfam, etc., that had a big presence in those regions. So we tried to do something a little bit different. But it was great to be involved in that, and work in the front line, with some of the volunteers that we had supporting those efforts. I always felt as if, again, I was completely out of my depth and completely out of my comfort zone, because every meeting you had in that organisation was a meeting that brought you back down to earth with a huge bump. You might have had a bad day today in the office, and you might have had a bad day today with client organisations, giving you a hard time about their service levels or their AHT or their CSAT. But then you meet people who really face into trauma and really face into real difficulty. So again, for me, it was a huge learning that yes, business is important and what we do is hugely important, to us and our colleagues and to our clients. But it's not life or death, it just isn't. But some of the activities that volunteers in that sector get involved in every day can change lives that day, not change lives generally in 10 years' time, but their impact today can save a life for a child that day, and that's always stuck with me.
Wow. Do you do much in the ESG space, or in particular around the?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, we do a lot, both in terms of charity work within our UK operations, but more so in our offshore operations, with impact sourcing and with the community development work we do in South Africa and in Trinidad, about how we make sure that we're taking jobs and careers and opportunity to maybe people who wouldn't necessarily have that opportunity without a sense of us reaching out into those specific communities. So it's still a huge part of who we are, and always will be. But equally, I think our sector does really well with that. This isn't just an essentialist thing, our sector does really well, about making sure that there are career opportunities in in the offshore locations in particular, and I think we should be proud of what the BPO sector delivers there.
No, I love that. John, I've so enjoyed chatting with you over the last half an hour, but before you go, I've got 3 quick, I always call them rapid fire questions. I always get stuck asking you more questions.
I'm nervous now.
You ready? Right. And I've got to hope and pray that I actually say these words correctly. So, would you prefer a glass of famous grouse or a drambuie? Oh. Can't say it. Drambuie.
Drambuie. Okay. Oh, right. Okay. A blended whiskey or a liqueur whiskey. Okay. I'm not a big whiskey drinker. I would rather have a Guinness or a pint of Scotland's finest, which is a Tennent's lager. If I had to choose between either of those, I would choose the famous grouse rather than the Drambuie.
Louis Dram. Love that. Okay, so I am now tapping into a very long way back in my in my history to ask you this next question: square sausages or round ones?
Oh, have you had a square sausage? Do you know what a square sausage is?
I have had a square sausage.
Right. So we call it a Lorne sausage in Scotland. And people might not know what it looks like, but it's a very kind of Scottish delicacy, square cut sausage. I definitely have a square sausage, and it has to be on a buttered morning roll with brown sauce. It has to be.
So I didn't know that bit. I only ever
and the
had
butter all melts over the side of it.
I love. Do you know what? I might have to try that. See, I did do a little bit of research. So
not good for you at all, but very, very, very tasty.
Yeah. And so my last question, which really falls into some of the stuff you've talked about, where would you prefer to holiday? In the city, in the mountains, or on the beach?
City for me, and preferably if it's a city on the coast with a beach, that would be ideal. Somewhere like Valencia or Barcelona or Malaga. Yeah.
And if you've got somewhere like Cape Town, where it's a city with a beach and there's a mountain just behind it.
Perfect. What's not to love about Cape Town? Yeah.
John, thank you so much for giving me half an hour of your time or so. Really appreciate it. And I mean, it's so insightful hearing what someone in your position goes through, what you've been through. So thank you for inspiring us.
Well, thanks for asking me on, Lee. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And hey, if you want to hear more Career Talk, do go to our website, ccma.org.uk, and we'll see you soon.